Morning, everybody. Don't know about you, but it was 4 degrees when I left home this morning. I hope you're all warm enough for this. So thanks for that kind welcome. It's my pleasure to kick us off today. And looking at everyone in the room here, some people I know, some people I don't, and it's testament, I think, to how fast this sector has been growing since I started developing wind energy projects and set up Wind Labs offices in South Africa in 2008, that every year, in every event, I see people I don't know. It's great. So today I'm going to take us through, if you'll start my slideshow. Aha, there it is. Co-creating grid connection capacity and allocation as a case study for our efforts that we need to engage really deeply on now to manage the energy transition going forward. First up, I know a lot of people are going, load shedding is over, yay! But looking at the people in the room today, I think some of you are thinking, crap, there goes the impetus for our sector. As you can see from this chart from TIPS on imports of the solar value chain, that sudden drop-off isn't just because Seraphim and Art Solar have taken over the market share. Since some of you have seen some 50% drop in demand for distributed generation. But let's go back a year. Roughly this time last year, the stage 6 load shedding was a big impetus behind the establishment of the work between business and government on implementing the Energy Action Plan. And out of that came the National Energy Crisis Committee's efforts and the interface that the Energy Council managed on all the initiatives related to energy for business. The outcome was good progress in many areas. Certainly what we see now is the product of some of the effective increase and improvement in the energy availability factor, coupled with the reduction in residual demand because of the proliferation of private distributed energy. But it doesn't mean that the work is over. We have to see now, we shift a little bit from crisis to the efforts to create a sustainable framework for our energy going forward against a backdrop of, some serious change needed. If we look at our status quo right now, yes, load shedding is forecast to keep dropping. We have the adoption of the ERA, signaling the beginning of a real shift in the market structure. But worries now about, are we on track for our climate commitments given the projected, continuation of the coal fleet operation, the operationalizing of the National Transmission Company? What does that mean for the restructuring? And market codes, yes, under development, but the whole market structure is changing. The IRP 2023, back to the drawing board. And, we have really a raft of things. I've only got 10 minutes to go through, and I started in your debt because we started a little late. But suffice to say, many things to solve on the way still. So that challenge requires a holistic and integrated view, which the Energy Council took a stab at trying to identify what needs to be done in a roadmap for the energy transition. This was through using the Plexos modeling, a strategic view on the whole integrated system, and out of it came a set of 11 key interventions that are needed in 3 areas: communications, energy data and modeling, and specific delivery initiatives. The delivery initiatives are most urgently and most critically factored around 2 things. One, the expansion of the transmission network and the improvement of the grid allocation framework for that. And 2, the whole evolution of the energy market in South Africa. So I won't... that slide didn't work. This was supposed to be a preview of the outcome of those models, which unfortunately didn't come up. So we'll go to this one, which is the focus on grid expansion, i.e. the first of those 2 priorities. So here, the key observation is transmission is one of 6 areas of major capex investment required, totaling some 1.8 trillion rand of investment over the next 10 years. And in each of these is massive opportunity for job creation, as well as all the socioeconomic spin-offs of that, which are critical to the justness of the energy transition. So under transmission, massive changes required. We know that the machinery required to increase the capacity in transmission, as laid out in the Transmission Development Plan, hasn't quite scaled as required yet. we haven't seen the rollout of new transmission capacity keeping up with the demand for new capacity for power generation connections. And now with the NTCSA and the I guess the offer of investment in privately funded transmission capacity, we see a massive restructuring potential in that, and the exploration in the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan of a procurement office for independent transmission projects. So the other part is the evolution of the market. Some of you may know and may have been following and getting involved in Eskom's consultation on the proposed new market codes. A massive, very important shift in the structure of our market. However, the codes themselves are really just part of a fundamental restructuring of our whole way of seeing the rollout of new capacity in South Africa. So looking at these as just two of the priority areas, I think our real observation is that we don't have, the third part here, the energy data and modeling. I think you're aware, everyone has their own model, their own view on how things should evolve. We've got multiple parties here running Plexos or other different kinds of models and coming up with different findings, and people can pretty much quote whoever they want depending on the finding they want to motivate. So one observation of what's needed is some way to provide a cloud-based platform in which all of these parties engaging in modeling can share data, share findings, see where they find each other or don't find each other. And the project here is to establish an energy data modeling platform that's cloud-based that people can engage in. It's effectively open source, although if you've got your own models, that's not open source, but the data model platform and the data for benchmarking would be on this platform. So to my point that I was trying to make earlier, we have observed that these major transitions and the 1.8 trillion rand investment don't necessarily have the institutional machinery in place in South Africa to manage them as quickly and effectively as we project is needed. So the call to action here is in this energy transition roadmap, in which there's 11 very specific interventions proposed to bring together capacity from the private sector to support the efforts of Eskom and government on those particular interventions. To do that through the NECOM, and NECOM is now being restructured. We foresee a sort of a NECOM 2.0, and the initiatives under that, using the interface for business structures that we've established through the Energy Council. One of those we've been running for the past year amongst the 9 NECOM work streams has been on grid allocation and access. And I'll just give you a brief overview of some of the initiatives there as an example of how, with business putting their heads together, engaging through this interface that we've established, we've had the ability to really move the dial on some of the critical matters related to grid access. So where we've come from, this work stream was established in early 2023. What it did at that time was address the fact that we had many parallel interfaces trying to solve problems at the same time by knocking on Eskom's door. And through setting up this structure, the NECOM interface, and using work streams 9 and 10, which cover distribution and transmission, we managed to kind of subsume all of those parallel efforts into a single effective channel and pick up on many legacy priority issues around grid that had been on the agenda by these various parties for quite some time. I'll take you on the next slide through some of those. But now we see an opportunity through the NECOM 2.0 to align the efforts identified in the energy transition roadmap with what's being championed through NECOM. This chart here shows, we've got many facets to the transmission landscape, from the assessment with the GCCA, optimizing, including the efforts on curtailment, the allocation framework, the proposed gated process, which is under evolution, the IG car, which was the beginning of the troubles, which we tackled at the beginning of last year, and all the bankability concerns around connection agreements, and then the implementation of what's in the transmission development plan. 3 key parts: optimizing allocation and planning, which we will look to in this next slide, the financing aspect and the implementation aspect. So we spent the first thing that came up, the biggest concern at that time, was that everything had come to a halt when Eskom released the IGCAR, as we call it, the interim grid capacity allocation rules. There was a challenge from the sector on the validity of those rules, and that basically put a halt to new connections. So using this NECOM interface, we managed to land on a new set of criteria, or what Eskom refers to as a clarification of those criteria, which ultimately resulted in that, that challenge being recalled. And that was the first of several initiatives across all these different themes, some of which have been more effective than others, some of which are still in process. So this is fascinating. All my slides have changed color. In any case, don't mind the colors. What you can see, several successes. The successes are supposed to be in orange, the gold ones, and the work in progresses are here shown in orange. Two quite strategic initiatives we proposed early last year didn't find fertile ground in the NECOM at that time. However, now with the Energy Transition Roadmap, it's really the realization of what we had in mind when we drafted those two concept notes. We've worked on the budget quote terms, provided input to the proposed gated process. We've also provided input to the curtailment framework. Many of you will be aware that right now NERSA is considering an application from Eskom to change the way that costs are recovered or managed for curtailment. We think curtailment is a critical way to bridge the gap between now and when new corridor capacity comes online. However, in a paper that we released and submitted through NECOM in late last year, we identified that it wasn't a sustainable, workable, bankable framework in terms of cost allocation for existing and future private IPP projects. So the proposed, the application now to NERSA has our paper in that pack demonstrating the need for what they've currently applied for, which is a changed way in which to manage costs using the ancillary services budget. An example of one of the effectivenesses of these initiatives. There's several more. Upshot of it is, what this demonstrates is having brought together sort of crowdsourcing, if you like, sector participation, not limited only to Energy Council members, but to anyone who cares to sign up online. And then having a well-governed interface, which in our case involves a business committee, which includes SAIPA, SAPVIA, SAWIA, the Energy Intensive Users Group, representatives of finance and of OEMs. We've had much more effective work in collaboration with Eskom and government than prior. So, call to action here is, we have these 11 critical initiatives. We foresee that the level of investment and the institutional machinery that's required justify that we have to kind of roll up our sleeves to assist Eskom and government in this transition, and are appealing that everyone in business gets involved. So not only through joining as a member, but you can go to this NECOM interface link on the website and sign up. You don't have to be a member there, and be part of the communication and the call to action that comes through that. Have a great day, everyone. Look forward to seeing you in the next coming sessions. Thank you.